It's on.
Okay, is it running?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. This is the February 27 meeting of the Council Operations and Ethics Committee. Members present are myself, Councilmember Conti, Chair. Committee members present are Council members Igo, Kimbrough, Hoey, and Frederick. Also present is Council member Anani and Senior Legislative Aide Michelle Andre, Research Council J.R. Pichardo, and City Clerk Danielle Gillespie. The agenda for tonight is to take up two items. Resolution 11.21.20R, recognizing the Albany Common Council Legislative Black and Hispanic Caucus, and Ordinance 34.101.19 in relation to birth and death record fees. I'm going to do resolution 11, take 11.2120R up first.
Take this one up because I'm waiting for Joyce. That's all.
For who?
Joyce Love.
It's
fine, whatever.
I would rather do the easier one first, because I think it's going to be a longer one, Richard.
Well, which is the easier one?
I think this one,
Okay.
the dirt.
All right, well, let's take up the ordinance. Let me get that one put together. Okay, so the proposed so let me do the background on this. So currently the Office of Vital Statistics, which is not established in City Code, but operates under the authority of the Public Health Law. So that's where our Office of Vital Statistics is located. And they are able to charge fees for the provision of birth and death records. That fee is set in the public health law and is right now $10 per record. This does not include your initial record when you're first born, etc. But if you need a certification of birth or death at some point later, you can go through our Office of Vital Statistics. The current fee is $10, which was set back in 1991 and has not been increased since then. At the same time, the fee that is set by the State Department of Health, which also has vital records available, except for the New York City Department of Health, which is always treated different than everyone else. The fee for records from the State Department of Health is $30, and that's a fee that has increased over the years. So last year, there is some legislation. Last year, we got an amendment to the public health law that allows the City of Albany to set a fee that is in excess of the $10 cap up to the maximum of what the State Department of Health charges. Other communities that have that same authorization are Chemung County, Monroe County, Onondaga County, Tompkins County, and the City of Oswego. So the ordinance before us would allow us to, would first of all establish in code the city fee, which is not in code right now, and set it at $15, which represents a $5 increase over the current fee that's being charged. I did have, Michelle, do you have copies of something that I'd asked? Or
Yes,
did you get
it is in there.
Is it, where is it?
Oh, it's in the written out.
See, I'm looking at my stuff. So what I had asked, so the last page of what is there is the current provision of the public health law. It shows the $10 fee. It also shows where certain requests are exempt, which includes school entrance, employment certificates, et cetera. And then it shows all the bolded, underlined, then the bottom shows the current counties and jurisdictions that can go in excess of that. On the back of that page, you'll see what those jurisdictions have set their fee at. So you'll see Chemung set it at 15, as did Oswego, and the other three counties, Monroe, Onondaga, and Tompkins, went up to $30. The New York City fee is also higher than what we do, and they're, as I understand, $15. You also have a letter in there from Danielle, which is the second to last, which provides some information in terms of expenses within the department. It also shows that the majority of the requests come from non-city residents, because basically the major hospitals in the area are located here. Every birth that occurs at Albany Med or St. Peter's at Memorial, regardless of residency, is registered with the city of Albany. And so someone who wants to, in Schenectady, that was born at Albany Med, for example, could come to us or go to the state, but would come to us for their vital statistic record if they needed it. So it's one of the reasons why we have a lot of out-of-city residents who also make that request. So the proposed ordinance would, implement the authorization of the state law, and the recommendation is that we go from 10 to 15, not the full 30, and that will offset some of the costs within the Vital Statistics Office. And I'll let Danielle also add anything in terms of her needs, et cetera.
I do anticipate having some additional costs. We do rely heavily on our microfilm reader to reproduce those older records. And those machines can range anywhere from $3,000 if I purchase another refurbished one, which I will add that I consider myself a steward for city resources, and I always try and go refurbished if they can tell me that a piece of equipment will have a life expectancy that would meet my needs. So I could purchase a refurbished machine at around $3,000 or get a brand new one, which is close to $8,000. So yes.
I haven't used one in a long
A
time.
microfilm reader, yeah.
Library and college.
They're still a nightmare.
What goes on there?
So all of the older birth records, so some, from like the 1820s to...
What goes on the machine, what breaks down on it?
Oh, the reel, the thing that advances the reel, because they're on like a either 35 millimeter film or 16, and it's just wear and tear because it's a machine.
Yeah.
And I do always purchase the service contract, so I try and have them come in and fix it, but the one machine, the reel to advance, to spool and advance the film is dying on me.
Now, is it the county hall of records? Didn't they take some and would they
So
digitize them somehow? That's a bigger cost expense.
So yes, a couple things happened. There was a grant that was written, shared service between the county. They were digitizing our records. They had provided us those records digitally, but they didn't index them appropriately. So it's very difficult to retrieve them. And we had gone in and started manually indexing the records, and then we had the ransomware attack, and we lost all those records. There was no backup. So the other expense that I anticipate, because we've been doing a business impact analysis after the ransomware to see where our vulnerabilities lie, and the fact that we've migrated to digital and we don't have enough real estate for all those paper copies, I have to now look at the current license that I have in place to see if they're able to do some imaging that retain on our server, and then some images that retain in a cloud server that's maintained by the company. So that's another thing I'm waiting to get an estimate on. So I anticipate this $19,000 figure will increase, because usually if you do a hybrid approach and you have cloud-based and on-site storage, it's always more expensive.
Yeah, Mr. Russell.
You sell marriage licenses.
That's separate from vital statistics.
Okay,
They have-
so the state, before we just up that, you need state approval to do that.
The state controls that. That would be another piece of legislation that would have to be enacted at the state level to adjust
That
the
probably
fees.
hasn't been touched in years either.
I doubt it. The last thing that touched that was to waive the fee for active duty military for the license, but other than that, I haven't seen any.
Do you get requests for them and have to send them elsewhere? For marriage licenses? You can produce them?
I can produce, I can do certified copies, yes. But
And all the ones are through the county, what do you call it again?
the
Hall of
county
Records?
hall of records, they have our older, like our legacy records, for lack of a better word.
You know, I had to get my parents for some reason when they had.
So we're just talking about
Okay.
death and birth certificates. Is there any other questions?
I'm fascinated about the whole idea. I mean, I was going to ask about the digitizing. I didn't realize we're already doing that through the county. The microfilm itself, is there a life? Do we get it reproduced, or how does?
So it's expensive to reproduce. The County Hall of Records at one point in time did some work for the Department of Vital Statistics. I think they've constricted and they're pretty short-staffed, so they wouldn't be able to offer that service to make copies of the rolls. I would have to contract out, and I believe the film is supposed to last 500 million years.
Really? Okay.
Now, don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I remember it was 500 something, but
Well, I know
it's
the old
supposed to
movies
last.
used to blow up because they made them with nitrate and they would actually explode. So
So I feel like like they give us like a silver copy of the film, and the silver copy is the copy that's supposed to be reproduced. That silver copy has chemicals in it that are like detrimental to you. So if I handle the silver copies, which I do have in the building, I have to wear special gloves.
Wow.
Or else I run the risk of poisoning myself.
Yeah, just a point of inquiry on this. Given that 3 out of the 5 current counties and cities that are able to go over the $10 cap have went to 30, I'm just curious to the reason why we went to 15.
So if I may answer, so it wouldn't be cost prohibitive. I wanted to do it incrementally because I do anticipate pushback, but not pushback from people looking for birth records, more pushback from the funeral directors.
Yeah, but you know how much money they make and
A ton.
everything else? I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well.
You know.
Okay.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the exemptions and also your authority to waive in the case of a...
Yes, so there's several mentions in the public health law, 4173 and 4174, also talk about when we're able to go in and waive the fees. But then I also exercise discretion. So I partner with the Department of Youth and Workforce. So when we have students that are doing the summer youth employment program, I'm always there talking to parents. I even volunteer telling them the fees waived. When we've had families that have experienced traumatic losses because of the fires, they come in, we don't charge them any fees to reproduce their documents. So we do exercise discretion, you know.
Any other from committee members? Mr. Anani, I'm sure you have a comment.
I do have a comment, and my position has not changed on this at all. I'm in total opposition to this resolution. I don't care if it's 50 cents to $5. This is a 50% increase. 50% increase. One of the things that in the city, doesn't matter if you live in Arbor Hill or Pine Hills, they believe that this city is nickel and diming them every opportunity that they get. And this is a classic example. Do we need this to balance the budget for the state, for the city? No. Do we need this to balance the budget in the clerk's office? No. This, like I said, when you look at the median income in the city of Albany, when you look at the seniors who are on fixed income in this city, unemployment in certain parts of this city is as high as 22%. This increase is going to have a negative impact on the residents of the city of Albany. And this just goes with the sentiment that the public have about this body, that they believe, and also with this administration. If we're going to increase taxes, let's do it, and then accept responsibility for it. But enough of these fees and fines, and it just goes to this public anger about City Hall and also this Common Council. My position has not changed, it will not change. This is a 50% increase that the residents of the city of Albany don't deserve. They don't deserve this. And it goes back to it. Sometimes I try to think, I feel like I'm here by myself. And, one of my colleagues just asked, why did we go to $30? I I get it, and it's just, is the administration even supportive of this resolution? Has anyone made a decision as it relates to where this money is even going to go?
So
Yeah.
in
And-
your packet, I would like to
Yeah.
point this out to you. I did have conversations with the budget office, and there's a response.
Did the mayor or anybody from the mayor's office say that they're going to be supporting this resolution?
Yeah, this comes from them.
Okay, from the budget office, okay. I just want to echo this sentiment again. The residents of this city do not deserve this fee, okay? Like, if we're going to increase, we have trash fee, we have this fee, we have school board fee, school board tax, we have this tax. I was speaking to my colleague the other day, talking about to pay roughly $11,000 in taxes. They just got their bill. I mean, this is a 50% increase that the residents of the city don't deserve. We don't need this to balance the budget in the clerk's office. We don't. And again, we have to be very cautious of this, that just because we're putting a $10 increase, if we don't need it to provide a service, of
$5 increase.
$5 increase, well, 50% increase, 50% increase on this fee, it's essentially a tax. And that's what we have to call it. This is a tax on the residents of the city of Albany.
All right, go on.
Can I,
There's a bunch.
I will be
Yeah.
voting, I'll be
Well,
voting,
no, no.
I'll be voting no.
So this is a fee that
because
was
of-
not increased since 91. You spread that over the period from 91 to date. It's not a 50% increase. Fees are designed
It's a
to
50%
support-
increase from what it is right now to going towards
Well, yeah.
15, okay.
But fees are designed to support programs as opposed to a broad-based tax that is not user-based. In fact, if you want to do a broad-based tax, you'll be hitting more people than not, but this won't generate that much money. The fees, that are generated are supposed to support the operations of the department and the program.
I've spoken to
So
someone from the
the
budget
cost-
office that said that this was gonna go towards helping seniors, this was going towards certain aspect.
Well, it has to go by law, it has to go into the general fund, and then as a revenue-generating department, those funds should be, to some extent, reinvested in that department for the needs that Danielle has outlined. I'm sorry, Simon.
yeah, just a thing I want to comment. So in general, I was just asking a question about why the determination was made to do 15. Just want to clarify that. The second point that I think was important that the city clerk mentioned was that a majority of people that come for this are outside of the city of Albany.
Hospitals?
And it's going to help the city clerk with the microfilm that she expects a big hit in the future on.
Like I said,
Good point, thank
and
you.
back to my position, again,
That's
the
what I was
city,
gonna
the
say.
residents of the city of Albany believe that whenever we get opportunity to nickel and dime them, we take full advantage of it.
Okay, and
And
this
that
is
we have to
also-
change that perception.
Okay.
And I'll be voting against it when it comes to the floor, but you can vote how your conscience
Yeah,
feels.
and it's also a fee that's waived based on financial
need.
hardship or need issues.
Absolutely.
Which
And I
no other
believe
fee is.
also, Judy had some questions about this too. Was that even addressed, answered?
She was,
From our
she's no
last-
longer on the committee, but we discussed that she was okay with it.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for Joe?
Sure, I just want to make a comment because my colleague, there's a lot of stuff, we're just talking about there's records from 1820. We want to try to preserve those records into the future. When you talk about fees and stuff, and I know you have a resolution or ordinance talking about free internet, but if my kid, I have a 12-year-old, he needs to get on the internet to do schoolwork. And I got to pay Spectrum $50 or $60 a month for that. I have to buy a computer so he gets in. So I think the technology, we're paying for technology, and I think we got to look at that. And I get it about these machines that, what happens when they can't make them anymore? That's why I was asking about the digitizing and stuff like that. And then we got to deal with stuff like ransomware. If somebody comes in and wipes out all our records, what do we do? That's why I like the idea that we keep a microfilm and we have county backup at the county level. So, I
Can
think
we
it's
do that without increasing 50%?
You're looking at 50%. We're talking
It's
about
a
$5.
That's $5 to you, Tom, but $5 could be a lot to everyday residents in the
But
city
yeah,
of Albany.
but it's,
All right, I'll tell you
I'm
this,
sorry, Tom,
there's,
I was
no,
offended.
there are people who,
Who's-
like,
can you
wait,
let me
it's
finish?
not just $5, Tom. It's not just $5.
But
There are
we-
people who are living
I think we
paycheck to
spent
paycheck,
enough time
and it's not just
going around
$5.
But
It's
it's
just
not-
not $5.
We've
Just
talked
a little
about
debate, can we go
institutions.
back and forth here?
Yeah,
All right.
Okay.
So,
and it's not an everyday
Yeah.
expense to anyone except for funeral directors or
Funeral
some-
directors, people that are coming in that are applying for passports that may live in Colony, Del Mar, or anywhere, and they just so happen to have been born in the city of Albany. They're coming in, and they're people that can afford to pay the fee. And this increase, you're looking at it as if it's a 50% increase, but when you
It is
take
a 50% increase.
when you take $5 and you divide it by the number of years, so the last time the fee increase was in 1991. It's now 2020. The technology has changed. The types of mandates that we have from the state, we have to print it on certain types of paper. There's a cost associated with that, and those types of costs did not exist back in 1991 when they set the fee at $10.
It's basically an unfunded.
And also
mandate.
too, just as relates to the comment that was made, this is the funeral directors. It's similar, I hear the same sentiment with the trash fee. The trash fee is going to go to the property owners, not to the tenants. Ultimately, they're going to pass that down. And this is just another example of that.
Okay,
That is just going towards the funeral directors.
All right,
Yeah, we're just going round and round.
yeah. Is there a
I'll make the
motion?
motion to pass out of the committee with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Igo, second. Mr. Kimbrough, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moves 5-0. We'll next move to resolution 1121. I'm sorry, was there any public, I don't know if you had public comment on that prior one?
He did not.
Okay. Huh? Okay. The next item is Resolution 1121-20R in relation to the Legislative Black and Hispanic Caucus. This resolution would recognize a Legislative Black and Hispanic Caucus comprised of members from the minority-majority wards and other members, and would initiate and support policies and issues reflective of the interest and welfare of Black, Hispanic, and other people of color. It would also act as a vehicle for implementation and, I guess, oversight of those policies, and provide guidance regarding community concerns. And it would be recognized, the council would in fact recognize the caucus as the legislative voice of underrepresented individuals and groups of individuals who are Black, Hispanic, or otherwise of color. And a copy of the resolution would be provided to city officials as well, so that I assume that they would then.
Yes.
So Mr. Renani is the sponsor. I'll let you
Yeah.
make any comments?
I am a sponsor. Joyce Love is also a sponsor. Councilmember Robinson is also a sponsor on this resolution. The city of Albany is changing, and I think that very too often, the city of Albany is changing. Diversity is very important. I think it's important that I think the time has come where I believe the common council members who represent majority minority wards be recognized to have an opportunity to have a say on policy issues, or even to come up with forums to promote some of the work that is being done in City Hall. When we look at this resolution, several municipalities have passed this. The county, Albany County, actually has a Black and Hispanic caucus. They just did it last year. They actually forwarded this information to us. Why this City Hall hasn't done it yet? Still a head scratcher to me. But I believe that it's important that as this city becomes more and more diverse, that we, as the common council, recognize the importance of making sure that minorities and marginalized groups' voices and concerns are heard. Right now, I know there's some people that think that this is going to be more policy, fighting with the administration or whatever the case may be. This is not one of those resolutions. I don't have to do that for free. I don't need a resolution to fight with the administration. This is a resolution to educate the community about some of the stuff that we're doing here, to educate the residents about, particularly right now, the census is taking place. I believe that if we were to have this legislative caucus, we could have a forum where we can actually talk about the importance of the census. So again, this is the first step. So I'm open to taking any questions if anyone has.
So what, I mean, I'm trying to understand the need for a resolution to establish a caucus, which can be established now without the need for a resolution.
I think that, like any resolution, is not binding. I think this is for our own record, that when we're no longer here, people could look at this resolution and say, well, in 2020, this body passed a resolution to support the diversity that exists here in the city of Albany. And I think that that's what resolutions are there for.
And so,
Go ahead.
so we've gone back and forth on this. Everything that's in here, we can do already. All of it. We can band together, we can, I see it as,
It's just essentially just recognizing that we could do that already. So,
So you agree?
so we're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
okay, I just want to comment on this. You know, even last month, this month for Black History Month, we passed the resolution recognizing the Pan-African flag. In this city, those type of gestures have meaning. And I think that it's important as common council members that we send that clear message with the Pan-African flag here in the city. We did a resolution, and I think that this resolution is going to speak to the public that this is a priority of ours, that we hold this, we recognize the diversity that exists, and we believe that recognizing the Black Hispanic Caucus is a step in the right direction. For example, why do we have a PEG access? We could just talk about internet and talk about improving Wi-Fi and those type of things, but we have a committee for that. So I just want to say that, again, although we could do this our own time, I believe that it's important that we send a clear message and also put on record that this is something that is important to us.
It's just as important to me as it is to you, but again, we can do most of the stuff already. And also, I've done research just like you on caucuses and whatnot. They have a separate space, separate staff, separate resources. There's 15 of us. And how would that shake out if we went down that road and did that? Would we ask for a separate attorney for the caucus and a separate? You see where I'm going?
I totally understand what you're saying. I would say that for right now, there has been no mention because of having attorneys or staffers or anything like that. One thing that we have talked about is that the census. We haven't talked about staff. We haven't talked about attorneys. We haven't talked about none of that stuff. One of the things that I believe that if this resolution is to pass is to focus on the census. How do we get Black and brown people to participate in the census? So that is one of the things that's on the agenda. But right now, no one has talked about having staff or hiring attorneys or asking for office space.
And it's the last, and I won't talk after this.
Okay.
Again, we could all get together right now and do that. We can come up with a plan. That we talked about making those census videos. We can all get together, make a video. We can have a press conference out in front of City Hall. Why don't we just do it?
I think that the resolution sends. I think I said that
The message
earlier.
would be in the
message is that we will have something on record that in 2020, this body decided to recognize the Legislative Black and Hispanic Caucus, to have something on record saying that this is something that we support, and the people who represent this body recognize that the challenges that many of the common council members who represent minority, majority districts, or even Black and Hispanics, we want to come together to have conversations that are going to address and further our neighborhood, our communities.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's nothing that prevents anyone from coming together, whether it's based on race, ethnicity, or even common interests that transcend those issues. It might be in issues that the downtown lower ward members, which would include my ward, have commonality
Richard,
in
so why are
interest
you in
versus
opposition
everything
to
else.
this if we could do that
What this
already?
does, well, yeah, so
what specific-
that's what I'm
the point is you
saying.
can
Why
just do
are
it.
you doing it where you
get
can,
together.
et cetera? The census is important to all of us. The council, by its very current makeup, is diverse. And you have members of African Americans in leadership positions, which you didn't have a few years back. But also what this does is says the caucus shall be the legislative voice, where, I have a responsibility also to represent my constituents as, we all have that responsibility.
But I don't think that you
And
have,
I have a responsibility to represent a diverse ward. You're saying now that for part of my ward, the caucus is now the legislative voice, and I need to defer to them, the caucus, as opposed to what I need to do in terms of representation. It also gives the caucus, in a sense, oversight and a higher level of responsibility oversight than the council as a whole or other
I
council
disagree
members.
with that. I
You
disagree
say
with that.
it shall act as the vehicle for the implementation of policies and provide guidance regarding community concerns.
Regarding community concern, okay.
Then it shall, then it talks about providing that the resolution and that this
Richard, no one's
provided
trying to take your power
departments.
away, Richard. Like,
I'm
this
not-
is not,
Well,
no,
look,
Richard,
I don't
no,
have-
but I get
we
rid
all-
of,
we
no,
all
hey,
have
seriously,
power.
seriously,
I'm
Richard.
not saying-
No
what
one
I'm
is trying to
saying
take your
is-
power away as a county council
I am very
member, okay?
concerned, the council
And
as a whole
Richard-
has very responsibilities as far as oversight, and we need to work together that
Ms.
way.
Frederick's looking to speak.
So those are some of the concerns I have.
no one is trying to take your power away, Richard. I think that this is another classic example of
Believe
the
I don't have
equity
the power.
agenda legislation.
Huh?
Again, this is majority-minority districts that, this is a resolution, again, recognizing those people in those communities to have an opportunity to organize and advocate for issues that they care about. No one is trying to take your power
I don't know
away.
what this, all right.
So can we let Ms.
So this-
Frederick talk?
Okay, so,
Thank
thank you. Thank you, Councilmember, for bringing this to the table. Thank you, Councilmember Love and Robinson. I will be supporting this when it goes to vote. I think it's important. I get your point that we could do it now. We could absolutely form a caucus now. I agree with Councilmember Anani's comment that bringing this out as a resolution gives more notice to the constituents that we are doing this action, we're coming together. And I do think it's important, especially given the comment about the census, that people see that we are supporting our Hispanics and our Blacks within the city of Albany, because there's a lot of hesitation about coming out and putting your name down on the census, thinking that you're at risk. So I am in full support of this, and yeah.
Any other? I think some of the wording here in terms of how it does delegate away, oversight authority from other council member. That's a concern that I have in terms of how it's written. And there's nothing, again, well, whatever.
Mr. Hovey.
Mr. Hovey.
Yeah, well, I had a comment, but I do have a question for you, Richard. Is there wording in here is there a way that you could change the wording a little that Councilman Anani would be okay with? Because you said that the wording, is there something we could do? I'm going to ask that, but I'm going to go forward. The only thing I'm worried about, me as a white person, an older white guy that lives uptown, I have a lot of concerns about the minority and wards, and you know that. Over the years, I've always been supportive. Do I no longer have a voice that if I see something I don't like going on?
You always have your voice. You can just come and share with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
but
I'm sorry, you
it's
can
not
share
it.
with the, why?
No.
You see, you're setting
First
it
of all,
up.
what I'm saying is that
as-
he could always email. We could both. He has our email. Yeah. So.
I just want a question for Councilmember brought it up. Would this be exclusive or would this be inclusive? So would we be opening up to everybody, even though we're having like the majority-minority wards specifically represented? So like, could Richard come and sit in on it?
Oh yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah, you come and sit.
member of the caucus?
You can come and sit at the meeting.
What about if I do an ancestry.com and find out that there is some...
I think it's in the resolution that listen, if you identify as, you're more than welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I saw the you, Richard. Did-
I think there's wording in here that
You're more than welcome.
it delegates oversight and authority of the caucus above what council members ordinarily would have. And that's the concern I have.
Is there a way we
There's
Mr.
nothing,
Pichardo.
there's nothing that allows.
Mr. Pichardo has a comment? Is that-
The only thing
all right
that I
for you?
would advise on this one is because of the delegation of authority and that it's becoming, it's called a caucus and everything, is just being mindful of the open meetings law and the public officers law. So once this caucus is established, that this caucus would be subject to open meetings law, meaning that all meetings have to be recorded. All meetings have to be open to all the entire public, meaning that, it would require, efforts on everybody on that to make sure that happens, because it's part of the opens meeting.
Thank you.
Now, as a political entity, you might say, some respect, does it have to be registered any place? Do they have to file with the Department of State or Board of Elections and spend the money? I don't know.
No, it's not
It's not,
formal, it's
it's
just,
not subject,
Well-
legally, it's not subject to that portion, no, it's not.
Because I look at, they're having some problems with the ones up there, the state.
Yeah, because they've created a separate nonprofit
Oh, that-
arm of the
So,
caucus.
so the
We're
next
not
question
creating-
was, because there's nothing, I know.
We're not creating a
There's no
nonprofit.
financial implications of this at all, nothing anticipated. Years ago, and I got dissuaded from doing a few members, we were going to have, I know what we're going to call it. And when we got into an issue, we were going to have a caucus up because we had concerns about, say, the infrastructure, the water, everything getting flooded up there. And Tom wasn't there. I know it was me, Dan Herring, and even Frank Commission wanted to bring it up last time, Junior. But we said it was kind of divisive, and
It's not divisive.
well, then we could.
Sorry about that.
So we could have go back to what we wanted one time in Uptown Caucus, the 8th, the 14th, the 15th, and the 9th, and then you could go to the Midtown, have their caucus. You could have or whatever. But that's what could happen because this is what we want to do before there was ever any word whatever, and people just backed us right off. But it does give you a little more of a voice, okay? And that's what we were looking for at the time on a certain issue. So.
Gotcha.
That was just a concern that we backed off of. So, put it to a vote.
And just one more thing, just talking, when I mentioned the staff and the space, and I mean, not that any caucus wouldn't deserve to have that, but I'm looking at this body, the number of folks, but do we blow up the body to accomplish this? Not meaning the staff and all the other stuff I was talking about, not just by having the caucus, it doesn't cause an issue. I think, yeah, we should be doing this stuff. For the census stuff,
I mean, the census impacts all of us. It's
we
not,
don't need
it's,
to do this, to do that. And again, me and you've had lengthy conversations, so I haven't changed
I mean,
my
do
thoughts.
you think that over the years, if they had a Black and Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian caucus, that would have had an equity agenda much earlier than what you got through with Dorsey and Mayor Sheehan working
What
together?
is?
Well, basically, they
go, come on.
they put that was the big.
Right.
That was the
it's
biggest
a matter of
movement.
members
That was the
working on
biggest
issues.
movement
It's,
in the city in a long while.
No, I agree.
okay?
It's
And it was done with, right? I mean, it's a big plus.
Yeah.
I mean, the opening sentence reads as if there is no representation now. Well,
Yeah, can I,
there's wording here that would be helpful if you wanted to do this. It sort of, ignores the fact that nearly half the council, and if you include the president, half the council is Black or Hispanic, which is
Richard, no one's
significant.
taking your power away, Richard. Like,
What power do I
It's
have?
fine, it's fine.
I don't have, I mean, you have this hang-up about power. Please.
I don't know. I just.
I'm just trying
Okay,
to,
got it.
when you're moving forward with this stuff. I think some of the issues where it gives the impression that there is now extra oversight authority here that the caucus has versus other committees or council members have. I mean, oversight in a legislative body is delegated to the functioning committees of that body. And you really, need to be careful of eroding that. I'm not sure what it means by recognized as the legislative voice of those underrepresented individuals. What the term would mean then in terms of underrepresented.
Where's Joyce and, where's the other
Jamel just
sponsor?
had a meeting, but Joyce said he's gonna.
Okay.
But they're big supporters. They're,
Right, yes.
they're actually, yeah.
So,
I'm new to this, but can I motion to vote it at, I don't know how to word this, vote it out of committee with the positive
Is there, all
recommendation?
right, any motion? All right.
I'd like you to say, go ahead with it, okay, but I don't think you need a resolution.
Motion, is there a second?
I motioned.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, there's discussion. Can we talk about the voice? And again, I'm a compromiser. We have half the council, we pretty much said, would fall into this group and half doesn't. And I'm the type of person, I want everybody to be happy. Sometimes life isn't like that, but is there...
most of the time, that's just like that.
Well, maybe we'll set
You
a
are invited, man. You can come to all the meetings. You can come
No,
to all this
but
stuff.
I'm just worried about where it says the legislative voice. It makes it sound like that this is the only way, if I'm black or Hispanic, the only way I can get anything done is to go to the Black and Hispanic caucus. And I think it's in addition to that we go to. I mean, we should be able to come to the council and get stuff done. I mean, but I'm just wondering, is there a way that, and I asked Richard because he kept bringing up about he doesn't like the wording. Is there some kind of wording change that we can agree on and make to make it more palatable? Maybe we can, but I'd like to discuss it take 5 minutes. Is there?
Would you be willing to entertain, I can't give you language right now, but would you be collegial enough to entertain?
Well, let's, guys, we're getting really.
No, I don't think.
Because then you got, they keep.
Can we get rid of legislative? Can we be the voice of those underrepresented? When you say legislative, you're
No, the legislative means that, we are the legislative body of the city of Albany.
The whole
So just-
council.
The whole council, yes,
Too many
yes.
questions.
What I'm saying is that we recognize the underrepresented, people that fit in that category. So.
Is there any way we can get the council in here? Could we get it in that it's along with?
I go, why you laugh?
You smiled when he said, can you get the council? And I just looked at
No,
you.
I'm just saying,
welcome
could
to
we
come to the
say
meetings.
like something like, is hereby recognized as the legislative voice along with the council for those underrepresented. I don't want to be cut out of there's underrepresented.
Cut it out. You're not being cut out.
Well, maybe that's a wrong term. I'm a wordsmith. There's got to be something we can adjust this to. I really think, I'm asking you. You don't think so? Are you just, why are you being not open-minded about it?
Guess it's not for
So this
discussion.
is,
Okay, so then, is there any further
I have
discussion?
just one other question.
Further.
Do you, a lot of times, do you think that this caucus is going to be most likely voting in a block on most issues? Because if that happens, because if that,
We're not, we already don't do it. No way. I can tell you we're
well,
not voting as a
I don't
block.
know if
Today
that
we
was,
don't.
I don't know if that was your intent, because if that
No, we're not.
starts,
That's not
it's going to
happening.
start blocks against blocks.
No, it's
I don't
not.
want that.
That's not going to happen, Michael. I can tell you that because we all have different interests, like you said. And right now, I think our priority is like the census, just stuff that we could do. But it's not going to be voted as a block at all.
All right, so no further,
Can I make, I want to make a,
well, there's a motion on the floor.
there is, but I can make an amendment to a motion, can I? Isn't that?
You can withdraw your motion if you
I
did.
know,
Right.
It can be amended, but it has to go back to the sponsor for amendment.
okay, well, I'll ask. Can we make it? Yes, Frederick. Also, you're being really, talk to me.
Okay, good.
Talk to me. I mean, you've screwed me a few times
I don't
on
know.
different laws over the years. And I still come back, I still talk to you, and I still open-minded with you. And I understand, but I'm asking you, could we add, instead, the caucus is hereby recognized as one of the legislative voices of those. Could we add that? One. Can we add one? One tiny little thing, one. Because that then opens up that, it's still there, but that the council is also involved. We're not even saying the council, we're just saying one. Because there's also the county legislature. I mean,
And the county legislature language is the same language that they had. They didn't put one of or anything like that. This is,
they're maybe not dealing with the city. I don't know. I'm asking you, as I consider you a friend, I'm asking
You're my
you,
friend,
can we get a one? And maybe you'll get thrown out. I'm just asking.
Can I ask one question too around it? The Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian caucus up here, does that exclude anybody who's not members? It reaches out to people, there's membership from all over, right?
that is correct, yes.
From New York City or whatever?
Statewide, yeah.
So a suggestion might be, if you have that, you might want to get together with the people in the county. So why have two, and they only have a few, it might be, more popular. It's just a suggestion. And especially the thing I said to you before about not just Black and Puerto Rican, or what's yours, Black and Hispanic now? I don't know.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to...
You totally rejected it, right?
With the one,
Yeah.
I just don't.
One.
I just don't see how.
Can I get Sonia?
What is this, where's the one?
Okay, I'd like to make, hereby recognized as one of the
You know what,
legislative...
actually, did you have public comment on this, by the way? Okay, I'm sorry, because we want to do that before we vote.
One of the legislative voices of those underrepresented individuals and groups. Because we do have other groups. We have like block by block. We have other groups that do, what? Well, then, okay, I'm just trying to say, so you're saying
Okay,
no?
so the
You're saying
motion
no to me? You're
I
saying
just
no?
don't see the purpose of adding one in there.
Okay.
So will it change your legislation by putting the one in there? Does it weaken it?
Look, I'm one of the sponsors of this legislation. One of the sponsors. Again, we have.
So can
All right, so the motion's on the floor.
I don't like you cutting me off, Richard.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
You are. I'm
Go
talking.
ahead.
I'm having a conversation. I'm trying to work something out because I'm afraid when this goes to the full council.
No, I'm not going to, go ahead, because I have been cut off in committees in the past, but I don't want that to be in this committee.
I'll just make a comment. So I think, Tom, you're saying to add one of so that it's not exclusive, right? So, because we all represent underrepresented people. Councilmember Nani's point is he's one of the three that put this up. So I don't think he can make the decision to change this language. The other thing is if this matches the county word for word, right? Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah.
I don't see why we would need to switch it to Ben.
Matches the county, why don't you just get together? Like I said, I think that'd be a great idea for you guys.
Okay.
So I don't think we necessarily need to march lockstep with county, but in any event, is there any further discussion? Okay, so the vote is on, did you?
So no, my question
Go
is,
ahead.
is there a way to, I'd like to hear from Ms. Love and the other sponsors. Is it,
On Monday, when it comes to the floor, they'll talk. They'll speak on it.
Okay, so if there's no
You like to hear
further
before a vote,
discussion, the vote is on the motion to favorably report those in...
I said report it out with no recommendation when it goes before floor.
Well, let's do this, there's this motion on the floor right now. So let's do
There's
this
an
one.
outstanding motion.
Those in favor, aye.
Positive?
Aye.
1, 2, opposed.
Opposed? Motion failed.
The motion to
Motion fails.
favorably report fails. Did you want
so,
And it comes to
Can
this
we-
vote. Does the chair also have a vote on this?
Yeah.
Or is it
Yeah.
time?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the committees, yeah.
Just correction. Just learning.
so again, how do we have a fuller discussion? Because I mean, you're sitting here defending it, you're saying you're not.
I think.
I think I'd like to have other council members.
Well, right now,
Take part
it
in.
is in committee, it's not being reported out. So another motion could have come forward, which I said with no recommendation, if you wanted to get to the floor, which nobody wanted, or you can come back and have another meeting, further discussion with maybe some of the other members. I mean, that's just how, am I right?
No recommendation.
Are we in?
Okay, is there any?
So can I motion to vote it out of committee with no recommendation?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure you could.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussions? That does foreclose the possibility of having more discussion.
Thank you
if
so
wanna
much.
have it, because you're not going to have that discussion.
Thank you, guys.
To vote?
So we have-
If there's no further discussion, then on a motion to move it out of committee without recommendation, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted.
Was that five?
Hey, thank you guys. We really
Well,
appreciate it.
no.
No, no.
Thank you so much. Thank
Can
you.
you pass that? Are we adjourned?
Motion to adjourn.